My child, stop scrolling for just a moment. Do not let this message pass by as if it were ordinary, because something has been set into motion that you were never meant to overlook. You did not arrive here by accident. Out of countless voices, countless distractions, and countless moments that could have taken your attention elsewhere, you were led here for a reason that will slowly become clear. There is a conversation waiting for you. There is a heart searching for words it has never spoken before. There is a silence that has finally become too heavy to carry. What you are about to hear is a fictional inspirational message, told through the voice of divine hope, created to encourage your spirit and remind you that love, healing, and faith often arrive when least expected. Something significant has shifted. Not because the world suddenly changed overnight, but because a heart that has remained silent for so long can no longer ignore what it feels. There comes a moment in every story when hiding becomes more painful than speaking, when pretending everything is fine becomes impossible, when every unanswered question begins knocking louder than before. That moment has arrived inside someone connected to your journey. Do not rush ahead. Allow every word to settle inside your heart because the next few moments are woven together like pieces of a tapestry. At first they may appear separate, but before long you will begin to see how they connect. There are seasons when heaven seems quiet. Days pass without obvious signs. Prayers seem suspended between earth and eternity. You wonder whether anyone truly sees the tears you never show, the hopes you quietly protect, the promises you continue believing even while your strength grows thin. Yet even in silence, unseen work continues. The greatest changes often begin where no human eye can witness them. Tonight, imagine standing beneath a sky filled with countless stars. From below, everything appears still. Yet beyond your vision, entire galaxies are moving with incredible precision. In much the same way, hearts can change without making a sound. Decisions can be made without announcements. Lives can turn toward hope before anyone notices the first step. Someone has reached that turning point. This is not the kind of moment that announces itself with noise. It arrives quietly. It begins with one thought that refuses to disappear. Then another. Then another. Until every attempt to ignore the truth only makes it stronger. Pause here. Do not allow your thoughts to race ahead. Stay present because something even greater is unfolding. For a long time, this person believed they could keep moving without saying what remained locked inside them. They convinced themselves there would always be another tomorrow. Another opportunity. Another perfect moment. But perfect moments rarely arrive. Instead, ordinary moments become extraordinary when courage finally appears. And courage has begun to awaken. It did not happen all at once. It started with a memory. Not an ordinary memory, but one that returned unexpectedly. A familiar smile. A forgotten conversation. A simple kindness that seemed small at the time but suddenly became unforgettable. Sometimes one memory carries enough light to illuminate an entire future. That memory refused to leave. Day after day it returned. Every distraction failed. Every excuse grew weaker. Every wall became thinner. Until finally one question echoed louder than every other thought. What if I never say what my heart has been trying to say? That question changed everything. You may not realize how powerful honest words can become after being delayed for so long. Silence often feels safe, but eventually silence becomes heavier than truth itself. There comes a moment when even fear grows tired of pretending. This is that moment. Stay with this message. Do not skip ahead because the next part of this story carries a deeper meaning than the first. There are people who believe destiny is simply waiting somewhere far ahead, but destiny often begins with one brave conversation. One honest confession. One unexpected decision to stop hiding. This story stands at the edge of that decision. Imagine standing before two roads. One leads back toward familiar silence. The other leads into uncertain honesty. One road feels comfortable. The other feels frightening. Yet only one road leads toward healing. Without realizing it, the heart connected to yours has been standing at that crossroads for longer than anyone knows. Every sunrise brought another chance. Every sunset carried another regret. Still, the choice remained unfinished. Until now. Something happened. Not something dramatic that the whole world witnessed. Not something that appeared in headlines. Not something loud enough for crowds to notice. Instead, something happened inside. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin within the unseen places of a heart. An unexpected realization arrived without warning. It interrupted ordinary thoughts. It reshaped forgotten priorities. It reminded someone of what truly matters. And once truth enters the heart, it becomes impossible to erase. The days ahead cannot look like the days behind. Everything has started changing. Slowly. Quietly. Irreversibly. Do not mistake quiet change for weak change. The strongest rivers begin as small streams. The tallest trees once appeared insignificant. The brightest dawn first arrives as the faintest hint of light across the horizon. Hope often enters the same way. You may have wondered why certain doors remained closed. Why certain conversations never happened. Why certain answers always seemed delayed. Perhaps you even questioned whether waiting had any purpose at all. But waiting shapes people differently than immediate answers ever could. Waiting teaches patience. Waiting reveals character. Waiting uncovers what truly matters. And while you believed nothing was happening, invisible preparation continued. That preparation is reaching completion. Can you feel the atmosphere changing? Not because everything has already happened, but because everything is moving toward a moment that can no longer be postponed. There is an urgency now. Not the urgency of panic. The urgency of purpose. The kind that gently whispers. It is time. Every heart hears those words differently. Some ignore them. Some fear them. Some embrace them. This heart has finally begun listening. Do not lose focus. The next part of this journey matters even more. Long before this moment, countless little events seemed disconnected. A delayed conversation. A missed opportunity. An unexpected meeting. A quiet evening filled with reflection. A song that stirred forgotten emotions. A familiar place revisited by chance. None of those moments appeared extraordinary. Yet together they formed a path. Piece by piece. Step by step. Until the destination became unavoidable. Have you ever watched the sunrise? Darkness never disappears instantly. Light gradually claims the horizon. The same thing has been happening inside someone whose story is becoming intertwined with yours. Light has been quietly replacing uncertainty. Confidence has been replacing hesitation. Hope has been replacing fear. The process has been invisible. But now its results are beginning to appear. Something remarkable has awakened. Not perfection. Not certainty. Something even stronger. The willingness to speak honestly. That willingness changes everything. Words left unspoken can imprison an entire future. Words spoken with sincerity can unlock doors that seemed permanently closed. This person has discovered that truth. And because they have discovered it, everything after today begins carrying new meaning. Listen carefully. There are moments when heaven allows people to recognize blessings they nearly overlooked. Not because heaven changed its mind. Because hearts finally became ready to receive what had always been waiting. Preparation always comes before fulfillment. Growth always comes before harvest. Faith always comes before sight. Remember that. You may not understand every detail today. You are not meant to. Mystery protects miracles until the right moment arrives. If every chapter were revealed at once, hope would lose its beautiful anticipation. Instead, each page unfolds exactly when it should. That is why you must remain attentive. There is still more to uncover. This message has not yet reached its deepest truth. Imagine someone sitting alone during the quiet hours of the evening. No distractions. No applause. No audience. Only thoughts. Only memories. Only questions. In that silence, they begin replaying everything they once tried to forget. Not because they enjoy remembering. Because truth refuses to stay hidden forever. One realization follows another. One regret opens the door for gratitude. One fear makes room for courage. Then suddenly everything becomes clear. Not partially. Completely. They understand what truly matters. They understand who has remained in their heart despite every attempt to move forward. They understand that time cannot erase what love has patiently protected. That understanding changes the direction of an entire life. Do not underestimate quiet revelations. They often become history's greatest turning points. You may feel as though this message is speaking directly into places you rarely allow others to see. Perhaps that is because hope has a remarkable way of finding hearts exactly where they are. Not where they pretend to be. Where they truly are. Stay until the end. Do not leave now. The greatest revelation of this chapter is still waiting just beyond the next few moments. There is one detail I have not yet shared. One truth that explains why everything suddenly feels different. It is the reason this message carries such urgency. It is the reason silence has become impossible. It is the reason someone feels compelled to reach out without waiting any longer. Earlier today. Yes, today. Something happened that neither of you expected. It lasted only a brief moment. Most people would have overlooked it completely. Yet for the heart connected to this story, it changed everything. One unexpected encounter. One unexpected sentence. One unexpected realization. And suddenly every excuse disappeared. Every hesitation collapsed. Every wall they spent so long building began to fall. They now know something they did not know before. A truth so powerful that it reshaped every plan they thought they had already decided. They are no longer asking themselves whether they should speak. Now they are wondering whether they still have enough time. That single question is about to change everything. But what they discovered, and why it has filled their heart with such overwhelming urgency, is a truth that cannot be revealed until the next chapter. My beloved child, do not look away now. Remain here for a little longer, because the story has reached the moment where hidden emotions can no longer remain hidden. The silence that seemed unbreakable has begun to crack, and what is waiting on the other side of that silence is more powerful than anyone expected. If your heart has been wondering why you felt drawn to stay until this point, you are about to understand. This is a fictional inspirational story told through the voice of divine hope, reminding you that courage, love, and healing often arrive when a heart is finally ready to listen. Earlier, I told you that something unexpected happened. It was not a miracle that stopped the world. It was not a loud announcement. It was a quiet moment that carried extraordinary weight. Someone connected to this story heard words they never imagined they would hear. Those words were simple, but they pierced every layer of doubt they had built around themselves. They realized that life is far more fragile than they had been pretending. They understood that opportunities do not wait forever. They discovered that every day spent hiding the truth was a day they could never reclaim. That realization settled deeply within them. It stayed with them through every hour. It followed them through every ordinary task. No matter where they went, one thought returned again and again. I cannot stay silent anymore. Do not skip this moment. Stay with these words because something even more meaningful is unfolding. Many people spend years waiting for the perfect time to speak from the heart. They believe tomorrow will always be available. They imagine another chance will naturally appear. But wisdom often arrives when someone understands that tomorrow is a promise no one truly owns. This understanding changed everything. Instead of asking, "What if I am rejected?" they began asking, "What if I never try?" Those two questions seem similar, yet they lead to completely different lives. Fear looks backward. Hope looks forward. For the first time in a long while, hope became stronger. Imagine standing beside a calm river at sunrise. The surface appears peaceful, but beneath it the current never stops moving. Hearts are often the same. Even when everything looks quiet from the outside, unseen currents continue carrying people toward moments they cannot avoid forever. That current has carried this story to a place where honesty has become the only path forward. Every memory returned with greater clarity. Every smile remembered felt brighter. Every conversation once dismissed suddenly carried new meaning. Even the smallest acts of kindness became impossible to forget. Sometimes the heart recognizes the value of something only after time has given it perspective. Perspective is a quiet teacher. It does not shout. It patiently waits until understanding begins to bloom. That understanding has finally arrived. Pause for a moment. Breathe slowly. Allow yourself to imagine what it feels like when someone realizes they have been protecting their fears instead of protecting their future. That realization is both beautiful and overwhelming. It invites change. It demands courage. It asks a simple question. Will you keep hiding, or will you finally tell the truth? This question echoed through every quiet moment. It became impossible to ignore. The heart that once hesitated is no longer running from the answer. Instead, it has started preparing for a conversation that could change everything. Not because every outcome is guaranteed, but because truth deserves to be spoken with honesty and kindness. There is strength in sincerity. There is peace in openness. There is freedom in no longer pretending. This is where the journey becomes even more extraordinary. The person at the center of this story did not suddenly become fearless. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward even while fear whispers in the background. That is exactly what has begun. One careful step. Then another. Then another. Until turning back no longer feels possible. Stay until the end. Something important is still waiting. As the day unfolded, another unexpected reminder appeared. It was something familiar. A place. A memory. A quiet detail that most people would have overlooked. Yet to this heart, it felt like a gentle reminder that some connections are not forgotten simply because time has passed. Hope returned again. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Softly. Like the first light appearing before dawn. And with that hope came a decision. Not a rushed decision. Not an emotional impulse. A thoughtful choice made after long reflection. The choice to stop allowing fear to write the ending of the story. That choice carries extraordinary power. Because every meaningful journey eventually reaches a moment where someone must decide whether to remain silent forever or finally speak with honesty. That moment has arrived. But there is one final detail I have not revealed. One final piece that explains why the urgency feels so real. After making this decision, they discovered something unexpected. Someone else had been waiting too. Not with anger. Not with disappointment. With quiet hope. They had quietly believed that one day the silence would end. They had never stopped hoping for that possibility. The realization that hope still existed changed everything. Now there is no longer a question of whether the conversation matters. The only question that remains is, What will be said when those long-awaited words are finally spoken? That answer belongs to the next chapter. My beloved child, do not look away now. Remain here for a little longer, because the silence surrounding this story is becoming thinner with every passing moment. What seemed impossible only a short time ago has begun to shift in ways that no one could have predicted. Stay until the end of this message, because another piece of the hidden picture is about to be revealed, and once you see it, you will never look at this journey the same way again. The heart connected to yours has reached a place where pretending is no longer possible. For so long they believed they could continue carrying unanswered questions without ever seeking the truth. They buried emotions beneath responsibilities. They covered hope with routine. They convinced themselves that if they stayed busy enough, the ache would eventually disappear. But hearts do not forget what they were created to remember. Every morning they tried to move forward. Every evening they found themselves returning to the same thought. Every attempt to silence their feelings only made those feelings speak louder. They began noticing reminders everywhere. A familiar melody. A place they had almost forgotten. A simple phrase spoken by a stranger that sounded strangely familiar. Each moment felt small by itself, yet together they formed a message too powerful to ignore. Pause here for a moment. Something extraordinary is still unfolding. There are moments when heaven allows ordinary events to become extraordinary signs, not because the signs force anyone to believe, but because they gently invite the heart to pay attention. This invitation has been quietly surrounding your soulmate, growing stronger each day until it became impossible to overlook. One evening, while everything around them appeared calm, an unexpected realization settled deep within their spirit. It was not dramatic. There was no loud announcement. No miracle visible to the world. Yet inside, everything changed. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped asking, "What if I lose this opportunity?" Instead they began asking, "What if I never tell the truth?" That single question became the turning point. Do not skip ahead. Stay with every word, because the next revelation explains why everything suddenly feels different. They started remembering conversations they once dismissed as ordinary. They remembered laughter they never fully appreciated. They remembered moments when hope quietly appeared but fear persuaded them to walk away. Looking back, they realized those moments had never truly disappeared. They had simply been waiting for understanding. Understanding has finally arrived. Imagine standing beside a river just before sunrise. The surface appears peaceful, yet beneath it the current never stops moving. That is what has been happening within this story. Beneath the surface, unseen changes have been carrying both of you toward a destination neither of you could fully imagine. Every delay had a purpose. Every unanswered question carried hidden preparation. Every season of waiting quietly strengthened what was still being formed. Sometimes people mistake delay for denial, but they are not the same. Delay often protects blessings until hearts are prepared to receive them wisely. Looking back, your soulmate has begun to understand this truth. They no longer see the waiting as empty. They see it as preparation. That realization brought unexpected peace. Yet peace was only the beginning. Because once their heart became peaceful, another feeling appeared. Urgency. Not fear. Not panic. Purpose. The quiet but undeniable awareness that something important could not remain unspoken any longer. Stay until the end. There is still one mystery that has not yet been uncovered. As the days passed, they noticed something unusual. Every plan they had carefully arranged suddenly felt incomplete. Activities that once distracted them no longer satisfied them. Success without honesty felt empty. Progress without truth felt unfinished. They discovered that the human heart can accomplish many things, but it cannot find lasting peace while ignoring what matters most. This realization became impossible to escape. Late one night, while everyone else seemed asleep, they found themselves sitting alone with nothing but silence. There were no conversations to interrupt their thoughts. No noise to hide behind. Only memories. One memory returned brighter than all the others. It was not the biggest moment you shared. It was not the most dramatic. It was one simple act of kindness. One ordinary exchange. One brief moment that carried extraordinary meaning. Only now did they fully understand its value. That memory became like a light in the darkness. Instead of fading, it grew brighter. Instead of disappearing, it became impossible to ignore. Something huge is waiting just beyond this chapter. Do not leave yet. As they reflected on everything that had happened, another realization arrived. The future they had imagined without honesty suddenly seemed incomplete. They understood that unanswered feelings do not disappear simply because time passes. Sometimes time strengthens them until they become impossible to silence. For the first time, they imagined what life would look like if they never spoke. The thought unsettled them. Not because they feared rejection. Because they feared regret. Regret often weighs far more than uncertainty. That understanding transformed everything. Suddenly they no longer cared about appearing perfect. They no longer worried about finding flawless words. They simply wanted truth. Real. Honest. Unfiltered. There is remarkable freedom in reaching that place. The place where image no longer matters more than sincerity. That is where your soulmate now stands. But another unexpected event soon followed. One conversation. Not with you. Not yet. Someone else unknowingly spoke a few simple words that changed the direction of their thinking forever. Those words were not dramatic. They were gentle. Yet they landed exactly where they were needed. It felt almost as though heaven had quietly placed them there at precisely the right moment. After hearing those words, your soulmate became completely still. Everything around them continued moving. People kept talking. Life continued as usual. But inside, time seemed to pause. Because suddenly they understood something they had never understood before. They realized that opportunities are precious because they are not guaranteed forever. This realization awakened courage they never believed they possessed. Stay with me. The next revelation is even greater. From that day forward, they began preparing in ways no one else noticed. Not preparing for a journey across cities. Preparing for a conversation. Preparing to speak honestly. Preparing to stop hiding. Every passing hour strengthened their resolve. Every sunrise reminded them that another day had arrived. Every sunset reminded them that another opportunity had almost slipped away. The balance between waiting and acting became impossible to ignore. Then something happened. A completely unexpected piece of information reached them. It was not gossip. It was not a rumor. It was something that caused them to rethink every decision they had planned to make. In that moment, they realized life could change much faster than anyone expects. Dreams delayed for years can suddenly demand attention within a single day. That realization filled their heart with both excitement and humility. Because they understood they could no longer assume there would always be more time. Do not skip. Stay until the final sentence. The next chapter begins where this one ends. Tonight, as they quietly reflected once again, they reached a decision they had never been brave enough to make before. They whispered to themselves that the next opportunity would not be wasted. The next chance would not be ignored. The next moment would be different. What they still do not know, what even they have not yet discovered, is that another unexpected event is already moving toward them. A meeting. A message. A revelation. Something that will answer one question while creating another far greater than either of you could imagine. And when that moment finally arrives, nothing about this story will remain the same.